but I can assure you that the containment was successful. The breach to the clinic has been secured, and Project Heartpiercer has been safely removed from the situation. All that's left is to dispose of the invaders, which I am approaching right now. I'll inform you when I know more. Well then, you two have created quite a mess for me. But, then again, it's not every day a set of fresh new samples comes crashing through your ceiling, now does it? After that, it was a rather simple process of cutting up the body, categorizing samples, incinerating the waste, paperwork, you know the drill. Look, I've got a big jar of scales from the blue one right here.
Help me! Don't cut me up!
See, even in pieces it won't stop talking. Isn't that remarkable? Oh, okay, alright, calm down. I'm just pulling your metaphorical leg. Your two trespassers are perfectly fine, and in one piece. Luckily for you, we were able to find their trackers before the surgery began. And as it turns out, your patron is on my doctor's list. The good one. With a bit more time and treatment, your two creatures will be ready to be shipped back to you, safe and sound. A true charity, I would say, considering the damages they caused. My poor kin was scared half to death when they came crashing through our dome. Though admittedly, they didn't get very far. Defenses? Oh, no, you misunderstand. The automated defenses were being held in reserve. It was not a machine, but a beast that did this. 2 of them, to be precise. What kind of creatures could have done such a thing? Well, I'm glad you asked. Welcome, my warfaring wingmen, my scholars of the sailing skies. My name is Dreadmir, and welcome to my little clinic. Pardon the spontaneous manner of this presentation. In light of recent events, my patron decided to take things in stride and decide to reveal my kin and I's most daring project to date. From the earth and seas, now we take to the skies. Today, my clinic presents their very own submission for Zane Reborn's Sky Hybrid Wars, or the Skybrid Wars for short. I will provide a link below to the original video for the full details, but to keep things quick, here are the rules we must abide by. Rule 1, real animals only. Rule 2, the creature must be able to fly, though gliders are welcome. Rule 3, no copying other hybrids. Obviously. Rule 4, respect the other contestants. Of course, we are mad hybrid creators, but we are also professionals, and professionals have standards. Finally, Rule 5. Swarms and flocks will be allowed, up to a maximum of 5 members, though limited by the weight of those creatures. The larger the creature, the smaller the group, with intermixing packs and collaborations allowed. Now that we know our parameters, we'll go through each member of our genome, building up to the reveal of our terrible 2, and seeing just what each contribution brings to the table. We have a lot of creatures to go through, so I'll try and be quick about it. We have a total of 12 contributors to address, so I will be breaking it up into 3 categories. Base, creatures that make up the largest components of our physical appearance and build. Enhancements, creatures whose abilities will enhance what we already have. And finally, special abilities, creatures who I picked for very specific traits that we will incorporate into the final build. Now then, let's begin. First on our list is the Greater Blue Heron, which will serve as the primary base for our build. Key contributions will be its long legs, curved long neck, and harpoon-like bill. This bill in particular will serve as our primary weapon, as with a combination of its curved neck, lightning-fast reflexes, and a sharp beak, the blue heron is able to impale its prey, easily bypassing the likes of fish scales, fur, and even the armored hides of smaller reptiles. And while the heron's slender frame isn't exactly imposing, for a creature of its weight class, it's exceptionally tall, thanks to its long legs and neck, which we'll need later on. From slender to strong, next up is Argentavis, very likely the heaviest flying bird we've ever seen on this planet. While there are larger and heavier flyers that existed, as well as other birds with even larger wingspans, Argentavis holds the crown as the largest bird to ever fly with proper feathered wings as opposed to the wing membranes of larger pterosaurs. Not only will this increase in size allow for greater strength and endurance, but this giant vulture also serves as a weight limit, allowing our hybrid to maintain a balance of power while still being able to fly. Speaking of power, our next contributor is the southern cassowary, one of the largest living birds of today. Alongside its impressive size and rather unique appearance, the cassowary brings two powerful kicking legs for our hybrid, each coated in a thick protective skin bearing deadly claws. The innermost claw able to reach lengths of nearly 5 inches, perfect for crushing and disemboweling any aggressor. With claws like these and a beak like that, our hybrid is fully equipped to... That's right. Our final contribution to the base category is the swan. In this case, we'll be using the trumpet swan, the largest of its kind, though most of the swans would have been fine. Primary contributions, its wings, efficient for a powerful takeoff or for bashing bodies. Funny thing, originally I had planned to include the Canadian goose in this spot for its quote-unquote fearlessness. But not only is this a rather overblown trait, unlike the goose, the swan can actually back up its own bravery. Swans have been shown to be particularly adept at using their wings almost like a set of clubs, bashing down on much smaller waterfowl and other creatures that enter their space, using their larger size to beat down their opponent. Now I know some of you may have some questions about this decision, like, isn't it risky to use the wings as a weapon when they're your only means of flight? Or how the wings themselves would not be strong enough to be a substantial weapon when compared to the beak or the legs? And yes, those are both fair statements. However, think of it like this. While these wings would not be a substantial bludgeoning tool against many modern land predators, most flyers need to be significantly lighter, often achieving their flight via their small size, hollow bones, wing membranes, and uncovered bodies. As most of our competition will be substantially lighter than this hybrid, a strike from these wings should still deliver a sizable impact, enough to push away or disorient a target, if not outright injure it. While the wings themselves won't be our primary weapon, they'll serve as a last line of defense for anything that manages to get within our hybrid's guard, past the beak or legs. Of course, now that we have our base, it's time to enhance it, starting with... And here we have the Marabou Stork. Primary enhancement, its thickened bill. But I hear you ask, don't we already have a sharp and long bill from the blue heron? Why include this at all? Well, partially because it fits well, but also maybe some sentimental attachment. I've always found the Marabou Stork to be a fascinating creature, and when the Skybrid Wars began, I had originally planned for this to be my base. However, as development continued and new species were added to the genome, it lost more and more of its unique traits, and was nearly scrapped entirely. However, when it came to the beak, I couldn't find another creature that quite satisfied my taste. While there were large Ashdarkids with particularly long and sturdy beaks, I felt the stork would have been a more suitable and congruent option. It also plays well into some of the themes you'll see later on. After all, it is called the Undertaker bird for a reason. Anyways, back to that bill. With the Marabou's thicker bill, our primary weapon will be much sturdier, as well as leave larger gaping holes with each pack due to the larger surface area. Less of a scalpel and more like a bayonet, a wound both deadly and unfixable. Trust me, I've tried. With Argentavis, we had a vulture of the past. Time for a vulture of today. Our next contributor is the turkey vulture. Now, considering Argentavis was essentially a giant vulture, we can assume it probably shared a lot of similarities with vultures of today, such as a preference for carrion, strong stomach acids, and so on. We can't be fully sure. That's where this guy comes in, bringing a belly of powerful stomach acids, used to break down all sorts of carrion, and even used as a last resort burning projectile for self-defense. Of course, eating all that carrion also grants a level of disease resistance, which certainly doesn't hurt. However, the turkey vulture has one more crucial component: its brains. These vultures have been known to be cooperative, smart, and even fairly trainable in captivity, with many zookeeper and trainer accounts backing up this claim. This should not only give our hybrid a degree of higher intelligence compared to most birds, but also make them cooperative when working together or with a handler. Oh, would you look at that? Another vulture. This time, I'm incorporating the Rupel's griffin vulture for one big reason. It can get really, really high. Hold on, that sounds bad. It can fly really high, reaching a highest altitude of nearly 37,000 feet. This makes it the highest flying bird ever recorded, and will allow our hybrid to take full advantage of the skies, climbing higher than any of its competition. Now, does this mean our creature will always be flying this high? No, even the griffin vulture doesn't regularly fly at these heights. But what's important is that it can, and that it's adapted to do so, alongside its large wings for catching thermals and conserving energy during its flight. The griffin vulture's own blood has adapted to handle these high altitudes. As oxygen gets thinner as you go up, its blood became more efficient at processing it in order to achieve these heights for long periods of time. Not only allowing our bird to fly at these high altitudes, but also giving it the stamina to maintain this height where others would struggle. Last but not least, just as it has tricks for flying higher, it also has tricks for going down. We call this the stoop. Now, before anyone says anything, this isn't the exact technique that the peregrine falcon uses to achieve the 200-mile-an-hour dive it's so known for. Not to mention vultures primarily eat carrion and almost never hunt birds out of the air. Despite this, the griffin vulture has still been recorded diving at speeds of nearly 120 miles per hour, significantly faster than its normal cruising speed. If a bird of our size plummeted from such a high altitude at speeds like that, it could make for a rather deadly surprise. For our last enhancement, we will be using the secretary bird, for reasons you're probably already aware of. While the secretary bird has many alluring traits, such as its long legs, beautiful feathers, and its ability to hunt in pairs, the primary reason it's here is for that kick. A kick that can deliver a force nearly 5 times greater than the bird's own weight, with the precision to strike a target as small as a snake's head. Able to be performed both on the ground and in the air, I want this power and precision to bolster our kicks, concentrating that force into a devastating hammer blow, either focused along the foot for a savage stomp, or into the tip of a claw for a gruesome gutting. And with that, we wrap up the enhancements category. Now all that's left are just a few special abilities. A creature that likely needs no introduction. We have the Peregrine Falcon, the stoop superstar, Mr. 200 miles an hour, and the fastest bird alive. Oh yeah, you know exactly where we're going with this. Special ability, the stoop eyes. I'm taking its eyes. I know, it's a bit odd to include the Falcon for something other than its most famous trick, but for a hybrid of our size and body proportions, it simply wouldn't be feasible. While the Falcon's contribution will encourage our hybrid to use its dives in a more active, predatory manner, to compare its ability to dive to that of the Peregrine Falcon would be a bit of a disservice, as the Peregrine is far too specialized to achieve that speed, far too specialized to be compatible with my hybrid. No, instead, I'm taking another aspect of its speed, its reactions. Like most Falcons, the Peregrine has excellent vision. However, in order to successfully pull off a 200-mile-an-hour stoop, one must have the eyes and mind to process all that information coming at you. While our creature size means our reaction time likely won't be as quick as the Peregrine itself, it'll still do wonders both on offense and defense. With the lightning-fast lunge of the Heron and the powerfully precise kicks of our Secretary Bird Cassowary combo, our bird will be able to win any metaphorical quick draw, surprising our foe with an attack that they never expected from a creature of our size. Defensively, these eyes will be able to spot a target from miles away with pinpoint accuracy, able to think, react, evade, or counter anything from a high-speed dive to a flurry of blows. Of course, reacting to an attack is much easier when you see it coming. You know what they might not see coming? Yep, we're throwing vomit into the mix, courtesy of the Fulmar. Of course, that's not all it brings to the table. While the Fulmar is famous for its self-defense strategy of vomiting an oily substance that is both incredibly smelly and able to ruin the flying feathers of other birds, they have another unique attribute: their feathers. Since it would suck for a Fulmar to get caught by its own trick, their feathers are uniquely adapted to be resistant to their own vomit. This means that not only will our hybrid be resistant to its own sticky trap if it manages to get caught in its feathers, but if similar tactics are deployed against it, it'll be more likely to shrug it off and resume flying. Now, using a projectile like this would be rather tricky to deploy during a mid-air battle due to factors such as gravity, wind speed, projectile speed, etc., etc. So it would most likely be used as an unexpected last resort, preferably on the ground for better aim. Not only will any feathered or flying foe be surprised to be landlocked after being coated in the vomit, but combined with the corrosive properties of our vulture's powerful stomach acids, and any opponent coated is in for a rather bad time. 2 contributors left, with 2 points worth addressing. Point number 1. If you made it this far into the video, thank you. I really appreciate it. If you like content like this and want to see more in the future, I would also appreciate you considering leaving a like, comment, or subscribing if you're interested. It really helps out the channel. Okay, cheesy promotion aside. Point number 2. While this wasn't fully intentional, I realize my genome has been almost entirely bird-based, many of which are still alive with the exception of Tepes. It's quite nice. An unintentional bird-only build challenge, it seems. So... Forgive me, but for our last 2 species, our orderly birds-only genome must come to an end, as it is faced with the additions of the opossum and the grasshopper mouse. Both are here for their impressive venom and poison resistances. However, they go about this in 2 different ways. Outside of just playing dead, the opossum is quite famous for its high venom resistance, as it preys upon numerous venomous snakes. its body able to prevent the venom's components from taking hold and binding properly, negating its effect. Meanwhile, the mouse focuses on the more insect and arachnid side of the spectrum, as it has developed an immunity to its primary prey, the scorpion, not only resisting the venom, but converting it into a sort of painkiller, allowing the mouse to keep going even after being stung. These painkillers could be especially useful in a dragged-out battle against a venomous opponent, as not only will our hybrid not succumb to the venom, but our opponent may be surprised when our subject gets a sort of second wind, fueled by a wave of freshly produced painkillers, and a healthy dose of rage. Now you may be asking, why two? Why both creatures? Isn't it a bit redundant to use both? In some situations, yes, but not for the Skybrid Wars. While it's impossible to be prepared for every kind of venom and toxin out there, I think it's a reasonably safe bet to assume there will be flying, stinging insects and creatures with genomes that were modified to allow them to produce venom, or a toxic defense. Now add the fact that swarms are allowed, and it's possible our hybrid could be stung and bit multiple times during a fight by numerous opponents. Though our vulture feathers are rather thick and provide a rather solid defense, they can't protect against everything, nor can they negate an attack as well as something like plate armor. While it is possible that the possum's greater resistance could interfere with the grasshopper mouse's ability to produce painkillers, these painkillers were always more of a bonus than a crutch for our creature. A nice addition, but not necessary. Ultimately, the wider variety of resistances was much more important. And for the final touches, the grasshopper mouse itself does contribute its fast reflexes, as it often hunts its more dangerous prey through evasion and waiting for the right opening to strike, something our creature will also do to minimize damage. Also, the opossum is just cute, so there's that. Phew, that was a lot to cover. But I think we're finally ready. Let there be no more delays. From the deepest dark of this clinic, a new creature takes flight. Meet Ardea Tyrannus, the Tyrant Heron. Stunning, aren't they? Now that my dynamic duo has been revealed, let me introduce you to them. The taller of the pair is our female, I have dubbed Bathori, while this shorter red male has been dubbed Tepes. Leave a comment down below if you know where the names come from. As stated in the original rules video for the Skybrid Wars, I have created a diagram with all the creatures, their traits, as well as the various stats for these two. Feel free to pause if you want to look at all the details. I won't be breaking down every stat calculation, but there are a few specific details I feel we must discuss before we dive into the matchup between Team Mimic and our Carrion Lords. First, you may have noticed that Bathori is considerably taller than her male counterpart. Yes, they are in fact the same species, and this sexual dimorphism was pulled directly from the southern cassowary, where the females can grow nearly a third larger than the males. Factor in the long legs, as well as the long neck and tall posture from the heron, and our pair will tower over Team Mimic, literally looking down on their opponents. And while these two lovebirds are built structurally the same, with all the same abilities, the increase in weight will give Bathori a distinct strength and range advantage over her smaller counterpart. As for their coloring, I wanted a more stylish contrast besides just their size and ornamentation, and thus I pulled from the color schemes of several other species within our genome to create a display both fierce and alluring, sure to catch the eye of any that witness them. Point number 2. You've probably noticed several times now that I've referred to these two as a pair. Considering they're male and female, does this mean they are a mated pair? Yes, that's exactly what that means. Come on, keep up. We all learned this in school. When a man and a woman love each other very, very much, they take part in aerial deathmatch tournaments. It's basic knowledge. Anyways, what I'm saying is that Bathori and Tepes are a successfully mated breeding pair that through countless hours of careful observation and very, very careful courtship are now biologically bonded in a relationship that is likely to last the rest of their lives. Not only will this stimulate healthy social interactions and mental stimulation for the two of them, but this will also improve their coordination and communication, both in and outside of combat, incorporating the paired hunting strategies of the secretary bird. Of course, Bathori didn't exactly make it easy on us. Believe it or not, Tepes is not the first of her mates that we provided. He's in fact the third. The first two males were rather unsatisfactory. Remember what I said about those beaks? Unfixable. Point 3. The running and kicking power of those legs. While the Tyrant Heron is an adept flyer, it was designed to be just as comfortable on the ground as it is in the air. As these legs are comparable to the cassowary and its relative the emu, I suspect our Tyrant Herons should be able to reach speeds of nearly 30 miles an hour on the ground. Of course, to reach those speeds, these feet must be producing a lot of force. How much force exactly? Well, that's a little unclear, but we can make a rough estimate. It should be said now that while Bathori and Tepes are both quite smart, getting them to fully comply and perform to their full potential has not always been the most fruitful of endeavors. Thus, many of my calculations will be speculative in nature, though I am confident in my results. Feedback on my calculations from my fellow kin would be appreciated. We can use two similarly sized birds living today to help us with this estimate. The emu and the ostrich. The emu, which weighs roughly the same as our heron, has a reported kicking power of about 500 pounds, while the ostrich, which can be nearly twice our weight, can go up to nearly 2,000 pounds of force. If we scale this down to our heron's height, this gives us a potential range between 500 and 1,000 pounds. Now, remember how the secretary bird can kick with a force of nearly 5 times its own weight? Assuming Tepes and Bathori can maintain this same ratio of power, this would give them a striking force of between 600 to 750 pounds of force. That's comparable to the strike of a grizzly bear. You know, the same paws that have been known to smash and snap the spines and necks of animals as large as elk and moose. None of this even includes factors such as potential diving speed, running speed, angle of the impact, or the concentration of force on the end of a claw, meaning the power of these kicks could be even greater, and more than enough to smash anything out of the skies. Finally, for my last point, how strong are the wings and the beak? While there isn't as much research to pull from regarding the striking force of wings throughout the animal kingdom, it is estimated that the common swan can generate a force of about 80 newtons, or a little under 20 pounds. Not particularly impressive, though if we scale this up to our Tyrant Heron's size, we may be able to generate a force of over 320 newtons, nearly 70 pounds of force. Not nearly as powerful as the kick or the strike from the beak, but more than enough to batter many of our smaller opponents. Lastly, while I've yet to find the true extent of the force this beak can deliver, considering the examples provided by significantly smaller and weaker creatures. I feel it's safe to say that outside of the thickest osteoderms and megafauna-grade carapace armor, the spearing bill of the Tyrant heron will have little trouble piercing through most bodies. Whether it's lancing through bones, tearing holes through wing membranes, or skewering through the back of the skull, there's little that can stop our spear. Now that we've gone through all the details regarding Bathori and Tepes, we really should take a look at their opponents and see what Vault and Maddie bring to the table. If you want the full details, I highly recommend you watch Zane Reborn's videos for all of his aerial hybrids, including Vault, Maddie, and Maggie, just to be safe. I'll cover a few points for each combatant, how our hybrids were designed to match them, as well as a few battle scenarios to see how it will all play out. Not including the one where they got the tar kicked out of them and nearly flatlined after they crashed through my clinic's training enclosure. Yeah, whatever. I'll send you the bill. Anyways, let's start with Maddie, the 1.1 successor to Maggie herself. Future Valis here. Apologies for this interjection, but as I approached the completion of this video, I had realized at certain points in this video I had swapped the names of Maddie and Maggie. While it may have already happened earlier in the video, from this point going forward it becomes rather egregious, so do bear with me. Since Maggie and Maddie are so comparable, this should not change any results, but I still felt it was worth meriting. Anyways, back to the video. Primary points of concern include speed and agility, high damage capability, and deployment of the When it comes to raw speed and avian aerial mobility, it's hard to find a faster creature than Maddie, leaving most other flyers in the dust, and our dynamic duo will be no exception. Even with their greater size and large wingspans, the Endurance Hawk simply has them outclassed. While diving from a high elevation could give our herons the speed they need to catch her off guard, this isn't a reliable option, and Maddie's greater speed would allow her to engage and disengage with little counterplay. While we can't really do much to stop her from retreating, with our falcon eyes and long neck, Tepes and Bathori really shouldn't struggle to keep track of her, no matter how fast she's flying. And of course, without a dedicated ranged weapon, Maddie can run or fly as much as she likes, but eventually she's going to have to engage, deploying her metal-enhanced claws, beak, and anticoagulant, which leads me into my next point, her damage. Maddie's arsenal is absolutely brutal, and within a short space of time could tear through our defenses or exploit a weak point such as the neck or abdomen with little effort. This begs the question, how do you stop an unstoppable offense? Simple. Don't get hit by it in the first place. And how will we do this? Range and deterrence. While Maddie is armed to the teeth, these weapons are armed on a body plan akin to the Falcon, Hawk, and Eagle. And though this build does allow for great speed and condenses the muscles for an impressive grip, none of them are particularly long. Compared to Maddie, Bathori and Tepes' long neck and legs mean they can launch some of their deadliest attacks a fair distance from their main body, providing another layer of protection between Maddie's arsenal and our beautiful feathery hide. It's also worth noting that Maddie is not stupid, something we can actually take advantage of. She'll be reluctant to engage, knowing that if she gets close, she'll be within range of a swift impalement or a meteoric kick that will send her plummeting. Getting within our heron's guard, either from the front or the back, wouldn't help. With that long neck, our hybrid could easily turn its head around and strike opponents behind it just as easily as in front. And while not as lethal, a direct strike from one of our wings would not only catch her off guard, but it could leave her discombobulated and out of position, preventing her from inflicting the damage she needs to. But of course, let's say she does inflict a successful wound, the injury saturated with her anticoagulant spit. Will we bleed out? Possibly. The question is how well that anticoagulant will work against the immunities provided by the possum and the grasshopper mouse. Vampire bat spit isn't exactly the same as venom, and it's hard to say if our immune system would even be able to defend against it. However, there are many snake venoms that include anticoagulants, and the opossum is famously immune to many snake venoms, possibly providing our herons with some kind of resistance. Even if this isn't the case, the blood loss would still take time, so with our greater size, we should have enough time to deal with our opponent before we succumb to the effects. Who knows, maybe even the painkillers could come into effect, giving us a sort of second wind to power through its effects. Regardless, the best way for us to deal with Maddie's offense is to prevent her from hitting us at all. Unless she's diving at over 300 miles an hour, she's not going to charge in against a foe like us. This leads me to my last point, I'll be frank with you here. This is most likely the most dangerous move in this competition for Tepes and Bathori. Considering this move was originally designed to injure something like the Indominus 2.0, it's unlikely that any flyer in this competition could survive a direct hit. While our creatures do have the eyes to keep track of her, and they could use their own attacks to intercept Maddie for a sort of mutual destruction, there really isn't a good scenario where Bathori or Tepes get hit by the stoop and come out well. And that's why we're not gonna let Maddie do the stoop. And here's a few ways we can do this. 1. Pursuit. The stoop is not simply a move Maddie can just pull out in the middle of a fight. It's a hunting technique that requires a great deal of distance and concentration in order to build up the speed necessary for the strike. Since this technique is primarily used for hunting in the real world, the falcon usually doesn't have to worry about being interrupted or chased during it. While neither Tepes or Bathori can keep up with Maddie, their pursuit will still force her to gain more and more distance in order to have enough space to perform the dive. Assuming she can even perform the dive. Because what's the point of diving if her target is above her? Our next method is elevation, able to reach heights of nearly 37,000 feet, and with oxygen-efficient blood adapted to handle those heights. It's likely that most battles between these two teams will start off with Bathori and Tepes at a higher altitude. Even after the initial engagement, there's nothing really stopping our team from simply flying back to the higher elevations for safety. And with her prey now above her, Maddie won't be able to take advantage of her stoop, forcing herself to climb higher and higher to do so. While Maddie certainly has the stamina to do this, she's likely still going to be flying well above her preferred altitude, making the chance of pulling off this maneuver less and less likely. And our final point regarding the stoop. In a 2v2 situation like this, the time Maddie spends flying away, climbing, and building up speed for her stoop is time that Maddie isn't protecting Vault. Speaking of Vault, we should talk about him next. Primary points of concern include a hammer blow, grappling hands, and acidic vomit. Compared to Maddie, I actually think Tepes and Bathori would have a much easier time with Vault, for one crucial detail, his lack of speed. Being notably slower than Maddie means it will be much easier for our hybrids to catch up to him, whether in a straight pursuit or from a dive. Combine this with his loud noises and very colorful appearance means it will be rather hard for him to hide or catch our duo off guard, making him a much more exploitable target. Now, don't get me wrong, Vault is a very capable fighter. His hammer blow is a devastating attack that could knock either of our creatures out of the sky, and his increased dexterity means he would likely be an even better grappler than Maddie, able to inflict good damage when up close. And there lies the problem, trying to get close to Bathori or Tepes. Similar to the issues that Maddie faced, the combination of our creature's long reach, the full body range of our harpooning bill, and our greater size and strength mean Vault will struggle to get in effectively. The problems don't end here. While being more robust and naturally armored than Maddie, his improved defenses would do little to stop our attacks from piercing through his hide or tearing through his wing membrane, leaving his last line of defense to be his acidic vomit. Maddie technically also has this, but my point will apply to both of them. While neither Tepes or Bathori would appreciate being hit with the strong stomach acids of either Vault or Maddie, thanks to the inclusion of the Fulmar, their own feathers would be naturally resistant to such vomit projectiles, potentially being more acid resistant as well, as the vomit produced from these tyrant herons would also contain similarly powerful stomach acids. While the acid could irritate our hybrids, it would be unlikely to do more than that. In contrast, not only would Vault and Maddie feel the effects of the acid, but its oily component would act like a nasty glue, getting all over their body, into openings, and worst of all, binding flight feathers together, potentially grounding the two of them for the rest of the fight. Sure, both Maddie and Vault could still fight on the ground, as both are capable runners and fighters. With the loss of speed and momentum from their flight, many of their tools would be greatly weakened. Meanwhile, Tepes and Bathori's greater size would come into play, their running legs able to keep up with their target, and their arsenal of stomps and stabs still functioning optimally. As you can see, Bathori and Tepes are well equipped and armed to deal with their opponents. It's time that Tepes and Bathori take wing and establish their reign in the Sky Hybrid War. Wings will be clipped, bones smashed and broken. The skies will rain red with the heart blood of the fallen and slain. Oh, yeah, I almost forgot. Since our team does need a name, I've decided that Tepes and Bathori will enter the Skybrid Wars under the banner of Team Heartpiercer. With the many themes of love and impalement, I thought it was a rather apt name. Now for a few closing thoughts. I must say I've been rather enjoying myself with the new Sky Hybrid Wars. I think Zane has done a fantastic job not only keeping things interesting with the new set of rules, but also keeping things rather lighthearted. While the Great Hybrid War and the Water Hybrid Wars were certainly fun, I did feel a certain level of seriousness start to take over, alongside a more negative competition, more focused on establishing a meta and debunking each other than enjoying the creation process and the potential behind it. I think the more lighthearted take on this tournament has been more refreshing, with many of the submissions being more colorful, interesting, and just more fun overall, which has been a pleasure to see. After discovering Zane's channel through his original Maggie vs 2.0 video, I can say I'm rather happy to have discovered it, and glad to see the success he's garnered from it. It's this creativity and mindset that I hope to incorporate into my own projects, and hopefully into my own future Hybrid War tournament, when that time comes. Thanks for watching. If you made it to this part of the video, thank you so much for taking your time to come to my little clinic. If you enjoyed the content you see here, or want to see more like it, leave a like, favorite, subscribe, or a comment about what you want to see next. It really helps out the channel. Stay tuned for more. But for now, this is Dreadmir, signing off.